You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Welcome to another episode of the Red Moon Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host. He's just making
Sean Sebastian.
Oh, wait, you gotta make that face again. There it is. Oh, that's just gorgeous. And following up with him is
Keith Cheatham.
that was the longest intro we've had in a long time.
I was watching Sean.
It's a little weird.
It was. But
The
Sean, but I'm
longest
actually surprised because Sean
intro.
normally doesn't do that. That was
He's
kind of
well,
nice.
whimsical.
I usually try to be a little more professional.
Yeah, I mean that's what we're all about here on the Red Moon
You
Podcast.
rubbed
really.
off on him. Your
Not
bubbliness
really.
today.
Well,
Yeah,
I
you're
can't
very
help
bubbly.
it. I don't know why.
I know why.
Why?
Because it's somebody's birthday today.
Oh, well, it was yesterday.
Well, yeah, yesterday.
Missed it by a day. That's
I'm
right.
sorry. I'm
we
sorry.
mentioned it.
It's
We
okay.
mentioned
I really
ours.
am sorry.
It's okay.
I feel like crap now.
You should.
I mean, I texted you yesterday,
You
and I
did.
put it on Facebook,
You did.
and I even said something in a group, I think.
You did.
You covered all your bases.
I covered every base
Every
there
base.
possibly is.
Okay, here's
Every
the thing.
base.
And then I went for the home run
Is-
just now and blew it.
and you
Yeah,
blew it.
you blew
I
it.
struck out.
You struck out.
Mm.
You were
No.
on third. You were on your way home,
Yeah.
and you struck out.
No, I didn't strike
You-
out.
Well,
Strike
Somebody got
three.
me out.
you got out. You got out.
He's
you
out.
let the whole team
The
down.
game's over. He lost.
We lost in the ninth.
I'm quitting.
Bottom of the ninth. We were out.
Saw the steroids. Couldn't cut it.
Yeah.
You got to do better than this. Look, as Kentucky,
I got my dip.
it's okay. We're going to do better.
You're killing me, Smalls.
That's right.
That's the baseball movie. That's good.
Yeah.
You got that right.
Got it.
Wait a minute.
There you go. Yeah. That's how they do
That
it.
is so outdated.
That's how they do it. That's right.
The only thing we could show, if we could, is if you had like a round circle in your back pocket. That was the
That
Butler
just
way.
that makes me
Oh,
think.
no.
That was
wait a
iconic.
minute.
Oh,
Yeah.
you've got it. Oh, he's got it. Hold on.
Uh-oh. What's he got there?
He's got. Oh,
Oh, yeah.
oh, now he's really douching it up.
Yeah, you got to have the circle in your back pocket, though.
It's like
That reminds me of the Sandlot, the scene where they all like do like the chew and
The
then they
cho-
ride the Ferris
yes.
and they just
puke
everywhere.
on everybody.
Yeah,
I did that,
They're
actually.
great. Oh, did you as a kid?
At the in high school,
Same reaction.
we went to the. I was in the FFA.
Oh,
You would
Ooh.
never know that. I had a blue coat and everything.
wow.
I was the school president of the FFA.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh, you were high
So
roller.
we got to skip school and go to the farm machinery show. You know, like however many times a year that's in town.
Yeah.
And while we were there, we got Red Man. Chewing tobacco.
Yeah, oh,
it
yeah,
was just
yeah.
free. They gave it out.
Yeah.
Actually, is that
And-
like the most popular? It had to be.
It-
the
it
it's
might
like the
be.
Marlboro.
I
You know, it's
Yeah.
in a bag.
Marlboro
It's in like a
chew.
pouch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we all
Chaw.
chewed
it's
that.
the chaw of rednecks everywhere.
Yes, it
we
really is.
chewed that at the
My
farm
cousin used
machinery
to.
show, and I went to take a drink out of the water fountain,
Oh gosh.
and I ended up swallowing the wad I had in my mouth.
Oh.
And they like
Ouch.
that was back before phones had cameras on them. Basically, like everybody had a flip phone or a Nokia.
Yeah.
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 And the cameras, you couldn't take an actual photograph with them. They were terrible. So, but they tried to take a picture of me because they said that my face literally was like turning pale green,
Oh my
like
gosh.
an olive
I believe
color.
it.
Yeah.
Because I was, but I never hurled.
You never hurled.
No, I took
You
it like
held.
a champ.
Yeah, you did. You
I
held it down
swallowed
like
it.
a man.
He said, I don't hurl.
I don't do that.
I chew.
Well, this has been a long start. So how about we
well, no, it is. It was
Kickstart the-
happy birthday for you,
Well,
sir.
thank you. Did
you are
we-
30 years old
Okay.
now,
I am.
as of
He,
yesterday.
he did that look that's like a woman when you say their age.
Yeah.
Oh,
He
I
was
was
just
like I lost my
We-
train of thought. I just
Yeah.
didn't know where I was going.
I think
to be honest
it's
with you.
important in this day and age that it's like if we have all the social medias like Sean did, you got to cover all your bases.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got to email, you got to
Yeah.
text, you got to Facebook
Tweet.
it, you got to tweet it. You got to get the news out
Snap
there.
it.
You got to let them know that you care much more than anybody else. And what better way of saying "I love you, happy birthday"?
To me, that just
Than to
shows
cover all
me
your
that you're
bases.
trying too hard.
That's
and therefore
exactly
you're
why
not.
I made this TikTok video. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do that either.
But see, now the Chinese know his birthday, and they're coming after
They're coming after me. They know.
Sean, you exposed him.
Sorry.
No, we're not talking about TikTok and its impending doom. All the little tweens out there are just so upset. But who knows? Maybe it'll survive. Who knows?
That's like the
Like
thing
MySpace.
that I care about the least going on right now in the world is
Yeah.
TikTok. It's like if they ban TikTok, I could not care.
I don't
less.
know. Maybe then we'll see some promising moves on this COVID
Maybe.
crisis. I mean,
Maybe.
They're like, we
maybe-
finally banned TikTok. Let's do something about Corona.
we got to.
Yeah.
Now there's times to move. Okay. Now we gotta rise up. Well, we're rising up this
Rise up.
week with a new review. I don't know how to segue out of that. I have no clue.
Brandon's always terrible at
Yeah,
the
let's just
transitions.
go straight to the movie
I am.
review.
Yeah, we do have another one though. Thankfully, this week
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
Well, we're
not
continuing
really
the best picture.
divided across the board, but
In general, I think we all have kind of the same view.
It's pretty close.
Of it.
Yeah, true.
And I mean, it is. I like it for the most part, but I mean, we can go ahead. It's Alfred Hitchcock's first American production, and that is Rebecca.
While the first decade of filmmaking proved to be hit or miss in the timeless quality of each Best Picture winner, it can be said they innovated filmmaking each in their own way. As the first decade of cinema passed and the second changed how stories were told on film with Gone with the Wind, this next decade has its own plethora of historic works. Our next Best Picture winner is one such film, 1940's Rebecca, Alfred Hitchcock's first American-produced film. Not only would Rebecca introduce American audiences to the master of suspense, Alfred Hitchcock, it would be his only film to win Best Picture. Starring Joan Fontaine and Laurence Olivier, and based on the novel of the same name, Rebecca, as with many of Hitchcock's works, was a suspense film telling the story of Joan Fontaine's character, a young woman who meets and marries widower Maxim de Winter, played by Olivier, a young widower and head of the famous Manderley estate. Upon moving into Manderley with Maxim, the second Mrs. De Winter finds herself caught up in a tale of suspense and mystery centered around the death of the first Mrs. De Winter, Rebecca. While Rebecca is the only Hitchcock film to win Best Picture, it is not his best, and while Hitchcock never went on to win an Oscar himself, he still influenced the industry in massive ways, all starting with 1940's Rebecca. Rebecca shows its age and its status as Hitchcock's first Hollywood piece, as Hitchcock's lack of complete creative control over the picture shows. While a solid story and innovative jump in the foray of suspense and mystery films, Rebecca lacks the unique style and unpredictable twist of Hitchcock's later works. Hitchcock excelled at showing, not telling, something that separates great films from the humdrum and monotonous films like Cimarron and The Great Ziegfeld. While there are fine examples of this in Rebecca, from unique screen transitions to the slow, looming pan of the camera over a scene, Rebecca is more toned down than Hitchcock's later works. Likewise, the twist, while sufficient for the plot and fine, isn't unpredictable nor as shocking as what Hitchcock would later garner a reputation for. Still miles ahead of Hollywood's first decade in subtle acting, there are still plenty of clunky lines and poorly acted scenes. Olivier and Fontaine deliver fairly solid performances, as Olivier as the distracted man trying to beat his demons, being well done. Fontaine as the lower-class pariah, always unsure of herself, gives off a very relatable performance of anxiety and self-doubt, but does have a few scenes where her self-doubt comes across more like Fontaine stumbling over her lines than a meek person dealing with being a fish out of water. Despite these flaws, Hitchcock still shows much of the talent that would be fine-tuned in the future, and arguably had Hitchcock had full control over the picture, as he would during later projects, Rebecca might have turned out to be a much more timeless film. As it is, it's still a good introduction to Hitchcock's work and a solid suspense film, even if a bit predictable. While it doesn't deserve its rank as Best Picture winner as much as numerous other Hitchcock films would have, it does deserve a place in film history. I give Rebecca 3 out of 4 stars.
3 out of 4 stars. So, wow. Kind of
Trace.
look, it's hard to say because I think we've had like middle of the road,
Oh yeah.
Best Picture winners lately.
Yeah.
But for the early years, it's either we don't like it, it's not worthy of the Best Picture winner, or it absolutely is. I don't think we've had a middle of the road so far.
I hate to just
Best
interrupt
Picture
you.
winner. Uh-oh.
But you gotta get this face.
Is that how you feel?
That's how I feel.
about this whole
I just
movie.
looked up and saw it, and I was like,
That's
it right
but
there.
was that for that was the first hour and
It's
a half
37 years of goodness.
of just it's not your birthday anymore.
No, it's not. I'm sorry. I just
It's-
happen to. It's very rare that I look at myself and
Say
be
God
like,
did good.
yeah, got something.
I mean, it got
But then it went away. It's gone now.
it's gone.
I'm sorry. Go
You
ahead.
just had it for a second.
I just looked up and was like, damn.
You just wanted to appreciate the moment.
How often does that happen?
never.
Never.
Just
Then it's
now.
rare that it
The
just happened
light's
on
right.
the show.
Headphones.
Sexy. I
For
mean,
a
there's no
minute.
other word to describe it.
It was just for a second.
But it's past.
Yeah.
Just like this movie, it's long gone. It's in the
is.
past.
Yeah.
But
So-
it left its mark upon film history.
Yeah,
Sure.
well,
At least as far as
both
Hitchcock
you and
goes,
I
yeah.
are in agreement.
3.
We
yeah.
both agreed 3 out of 4.
Mhm.
Not necessarily
And-
what we consider to be at all.
Oh, it's
best
nowhere.
Hitchcock.
It's nowhere near
No.
Hitchcock's best.
No.
But it is. I will say, like, you definitely see those early hints of what Hitchcock would create. And like I said in my room, had he had full creative control over the film, maybe the movie would have been more timeless, like his other movies. Because it is, as we mentioned, you'll see in our Tinseltown Town trivia, and Sean mentioned on Great Day Live, it is the only movie he wasn't allowed to have any with the scripting. He wasn't allowed any control over the scripting of the movie, which is unusual. And like I said in the review, he's a type of director that does show not tell, which is how you make great movies. That's
Right.
the difference between something like that and Cimarron, which tried to tell you everything with the characters just sitting there in one scene, just talking, and your mind goes numb. Hitchcock always shows and you see bits of that in this movie, but not a whole lot
great
of it.
deal.
Yeah.
No. In fact, that's kind of one of the disappointing things about the film is, Sean, I know you talked a little bit about how much exposition there is to even just build up to the suspense,
Yeah.
which there is a little bit that I think is warranted, and I don't know if it's just something that is, stuck in that time period with these types of films and how much exposition they feel like they need to tell before you're knee deep in caring for the characters. But I did feel like, it wasn't, I guess because we've been seeing these 3-hour, 4-hour movies in the last
Right.
3 years, it's like, in my mind, 2 hour, 10 minutes actually felt kind of brisk for the movies of this time period. Not to give it, leeway in terms of where it did kind of.
Well, after
make a
watching
lull.
Gone with the Wind last week, which was
Yeah.
4 hours
Yeah,
long, like this is
exactly.
half
Yeah.
the length.
So, I mean, I will say, I do agree. I think it took a little while to build up to the suspense. By the time they were actually at the, mansion, and you started to kind of figure out, okay, there's something up with this Rebecca person I'm sitting here honestly thinking that because they won't say the main character's name.
yeah,
I'm thinking
You
she's
just keep
Rebecca.
seeing her initials and stuff everywhere.
Right, and I'm sitting here thinking she's got to have something.
well, he thought that
I thought she
Joan
was Rebecca.
Fontaine was Rebecca, and she
Oh.
just didn't remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I
okay.
thought the twist was going to be that they're going to reveal that somehow they're being rude to her or they're being mean to her because they're trying to get her to reconcile with what she lost.
Oh, yeah. Well,
And-
that actually would have been a
Well,
much
better
better
twist,
twist.
yeah.
I kind of thought it was coming, but then all of a sudden
Yeah.
when you find out, again, I think we brought it up in the review, but also even on Great Day Live, we talk about how it's just not one of those classic iconic twists that Hitchcock later. It's almost a better movie, I think, to watch after
and I
you've
was
seen
gonna
other
say,
Hitchcock films because you are guessing the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to
You
say, I
know?
think part of that comes too from because this is based off a novel, and a lot of Hitchcock movies actually are based off of novels. But Hitchcock tends to change. He's not someone who directs a novel exactly as is. He'll kind of change story beats for film or make the twists more unique or such. And David O. Selznick, the producer, was very adamant that nothing be changed from the novel. He loved the novel so much he wanted it filmed exactly as is, which annoyed Hitchcock because there were changes he did want to make.
Right.
And I think maybe the twist might have been more unique had Hitchcock, and you have people who are fans of books that are like, well, I can't believe they changed that. But in general, I would say Hitchcock kind of made more unique changes that bettered the story. So,
And Sean, so what about you in terms of because I know that obviously you didn't like.
I gave it 2.5.
Yeah.
The biggest gripes that I had about the film were the middle portion of the film, about 20, 25 minutes from the beginning, very good. Set me up pretty well. And then the end from about the scene where they're at the boathouse and they're introduced to the guy that's kind of I guess you would say he's a little bit slow or something like that. What was his name? Ben.
Ben, I thought it was.
Or
I
something
don't know.
like
I
that.
can't remember.
And that was when it started to sink in to me that something
Something's
tragic
wrong.
must have really happened to this Rebecca that you don't know much about.
Yeah.
Right.
But between that part, those two parts, I felt like there was just dead space. And I didn't really, there was a little bit of, exposition or whatever to kind of build this story a little bit, but I didn't feel like it was enough. I feel like it went from a high gear to a very, very low gear and then back up to a high gear again.
Right.
And that's where the middle portion of the film, to me, just kind of lost my interest. And then at the end, it picked up, and I really enjoyed everything right up until the actual climax, because I didn't feel like it
was that impressive.
really, it just wasn't very impressive. And I didn't fully understand what the main issue that the maid or the housemaiden.
She was just jealous because she liked Rebecca more. And she
I mean, I
wished,
guess.
See, and
but
I
was
know
this thing
I
of-
would agree.
yeah,
I
I
thought
kept-
it was a little bit of a stretch.
It wasn't. It was kind of a social class issue where like she liked Rebecca and what she represented, and here's this poor girl, and she's not Rebecca.
Well,
But
and
then
you
she
kinda-
finds out that Rebecca was even lying to her.
oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And I understand that maybe that's what sets her off, but I mean, I was just like, it didn't set somebody off
Yeah.
enough to burn down the whole
Yeah, I
manor.
thought that was
yeah.
a far
Yeah,
stretch.
and then they try to make you think that that the God, what is her name in the
What was it?
what's her
It's
name?
just Mrs.
Miss-
DeWinter.
are you
She
talking-
doesn't-
are you talking
yeah,
about
never
the
tells
maid?
her name.
Yeah, she never has a name.
Never
That's-
says her name.
That's why I
Yeah.
thought
Yeah.
it
She's
was
just Mrs.
possible.
DeWinter.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And it would be a good indication of that storyline if they would have kept it
Yeah.
that way. But I just, they make you think she's dead, and then in the next scene she's not, and I thought that kind of blew a pretty good twist if they would have left it that
Yeah.
way. But I don't know, there was just something about it.
Yeah, I was just like, for me, what I liked most about the film is also at times what I hated most about the film was Joan Fontaine. There were parts of the film, like especially like with her kind of anxiety and feeling like the social outcast and that self doubt where she thinks like,
Yes.
oh,
Always
he doesn't.
comparing
Yeah,
herself
she's
to-
like she's comparing herself constantly to Rebecca, and he doesn't love me like he loved her, or his family doesn't love me. And part of that, like, I found really relatable as someone who's had a lot of anxiety in my life, and like there's parts of that where it's like I really feel how she's feeling. Like I completely understand her, like her timidness and her being scared of these people. But then there are other times where I felt her acting like it was her supposed to being meek, but it felt like she was stumbling over her lines, not
Yeah.
necessarily being scared. And when it came to those scenes, I was like, well, now I don't feel the relatability, because where I felt relatable to her in her anxiety, the scenes where like I felt like she was trying too hard and her acting wasn't up to par kind of took me out of it. So it's like I really liked her, but at the same time there were scenes where I felt like she really dropped the ball too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I would agree. I felt like, again, I think so much of that goes into the relationship between her and I forget his name, Olivier.
Yeah,
Because I'm just like, I felt like Maxim's character, in a sense, is really not giving her a reason. Like I felt like he was really high
Yeah, he's
strung.
very
of course,
cold, yeah.
he was cold, but it's like you obviously knew getting with this guy. He had just lost his wife.
Yeah.
You the first time you meet him is to stop him from jumping off a cliff.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, he's high strung, and yet you're going into the situation just to get yourself out of, the crappy life that you were living, being
Yeah.
this one which I thought, honestly, the woman, the companion.
Oh, her her employer at the beginning.
Her employer,
was
who
great.
she was, I'm
Yeah.
telling you right now, I didn't think I could hate somebody as much as I hated
Yeah.
Scarlett. She came close.
Yeah.
But it's like,
But you were supposed to hate her.
Yeah.
so,
yeah, no, absolutely.
She did a good job.
and
yeah.
she did. And I thought, okay, I can see why they would kind of merge these two stories together and bring their lives together.
Mm-hmm.
But then I thought the rest of the movie was going to be this mysterious, like she does fall in love with him, but he's this tragic character of some sort. And I think what really kind of, I don't know, irked me was that I didn't believe their relationship as a whole developed enough because of how cold he was to her and how attached she was. And I knew that there was building suspense. I got the suspense, but I just didn't feel like it warranted enough of my caring for either character to really be a shock until after she finds out the major twist about Rebecca, and then she's all of a sudden like, now she's like, well, I'll stand behind you.
Yeah, all
and
of
I was
a
like,
sudden they love
what?
each other madly, and
I just thought, well, that's kind of a little bit convenient.
That, yes and no, because I will say I did note that, I mean, yeah, they kind of fall in love fast, but at the same time, I was like, at least they did I think, do a better job of showing the passage of time in this movie than, say, The Great Ziegfeld, where he like they just fall in love immediately. Like there were so many movies
Agreed.
in the first decade of Best Picture winners where like as soon as they meet, they're madly in love. And I'll say, while this one I still didn't buy entirely that they had enough time to fall in love, I will say at least they did a better job of showing the passage of time.
Well, and the only other thing that
I can agree.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I mean, because we are seeing that films are getting better at that.
Yeah.
But I will say the other thing that I didn't wholly like was just, again, well, one thing that I thought was masterfully done, again, and this just showcases Hitchcock's ability of suspense, is that even after the main twist is revealed, there's still other elements of suspense.
Yeah.
It's like you find out the twist, and then you're still kind of teetering on, well, is he telling the truth or not?
Yeah.
And then there's this whole suspense of, is the police going to can him?
Yeah.
But like even all of those circumstances, and I get it's a movie, they happen so quickly with no passage of time.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Sean, you had mentioned this to me earlier this afternoon about how it's like in one scene they're sitting there all of a sudden now getting this circumstantial evidence.
Yeah.
The policing in the movie was
A little-
unbelievable.
yes.
I'm just like, this is not. If this is how they did police work, and I told you, I was like, no wonder Jack the Ripper never got caught.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is like, it was terrible. It was like, let's go talk to a witness. You can come along. You're the suspect. You come along with us.
Yeah,
And go
yeah.
talk to a witness. I'm like, that
and even
can't
then,
happen.
it's like you're going to go talk to a witness, and then, oh yeah, what do we do with our suspect here?
Yeah.
Or it's like, oh,
Yeah.
he's not going to run off.
and they just take
Don't
his
worry
word
about
for it.
Yeah,
They take
Yeah.
the doctor's word for it. I'm like, the doctor could have been in his pocket and
Yeah.
just told that story,
Right.
and they're just taking it as gospel. He doesn't
Yeah.
give them any evidence at all.
And I don't know. To me, it just was further evidence that I felt like the Academy was awarding a movie yet again because of it being like a first of its kind.
Yeah.
And it being a popular movie. We read in our Tinseltown trivia for next week that it was easily the highest grossing film of that year.
Yeah.
And so I think with its popularity and with it being a mystery and a suspenseful film, it was kind of like, that's the winner. We're going to pick it.
I think one thing that told me all I needed to know about the movie's production when I was like researching it for the review and stuff was they're talking about the scene where Manderley burns down.
Yeah.
And this is how this is why I feel like if Hitchcock had more control, it would have been better. Apparently, David O. Selznick he was very adamant about in that scene when it's burning down, the smoke would rise up and form an R in the air for Rebecca.
Oh.
And Alfred Hitchcock was like, yeah, that's stupid. We're not doing that.
Well, good on him.
But he didn't tell Selznick that, so he edited the film to like show the shot of like the
pillow on
the
yeah.
embroidered on R burning because he's like that's
Yeah.
more subtle than this stupid smoke cloud because he wanted to be more subtle with it than like the just campy R in the clouds. So like he did that without telling Selznick because Selznick wanted that scene, and I was like, yeah, that tells me all I need to know about the fact that. The
His
difference
hand in the
between
production.
Selznick and Hitchcock, because
Yes.
Selznick was that kind of more old-time campy type of like
Yeah.
producer, whereas Hitchcock was like, no, we want to be subtle.
Well, and that's the other thing to note of importance is
Yeah.
that this is really his first foray into the American market.
Yeah.
Hitchcock was already producing and
Heck,
directing
he was
films.
probably just like, this is how Americans make film. Like, we need to fix this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And thank God
Those
we needed
wonky,
them.
wonky backgrounds that they used.
Oh, yeah, the
to do a
green
bunch of-
screens.
Yeah, those
Yes,
were
it was
bad.
terrible.
Well, but that was early green screens.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, every time they used a green screen, I could tell. It's like, yep, that there's green screen in the
Yeah.
40s.
I was going to say, and well, and another thing that was kind of, an aside from this movie, but I was talking to Keith about it,
Yeah.
was just, we've seen Gone with the Wind, we've seen Wizard of Oz at this time, just the year before.
Yeah.
And we see the brilliance of color, but of course how expensive it was.
Well, even-
not everything,
Yeah.
for at least the next decade is going to be in
Well,
color.
I don't know
It's
if you
still
noticed.
black and
Did you
white.
notice that like there's a early shot when they first get to Manderley, and she goes. They're going to the front door, and they open the front door to go into the manor. And when they open the front door, you can see through the door, and it's just a wall.
Oh, yeah.
With a painted
Oh,
background of a
okay.
staircase,
Yeah.
and it's just you can
can
tell,
tell.
even in black and white
even
that it's
that I
just
was gonna
painted.
say, like, that's-
because Manderley itself was a miniature.
Yeah, it was a
they
miniature.
couldn't find
They-
a property that everybody could
have
agree
that?
on.
Yeah.
so they used a miniature.
Yeah,
for it.
and then the sets, like the inside were sets. But I was going to
Yeah.
say, that's a testament to like Gone with the Wind and Wizard of Oz when you look at their
How
sets.
well they
grand
and,
held up.
scale, yeah.
even the background, like, I mean, there's obviously painted backgrounds in Wizard of Oz, but they blend in a lot better.
Yes.
Yes.
Whereas when you watch this film that used green
Especially in a
screens.
color movie.
Yes, in a color
Yeah.
movie, that's a lot harder.
Yes.
But in this movie, you're using green screens and painted backgrounds that do not blend in at all
Yeah.
the way, like,
That
those
stand
movies.
out
yeah.
even more.
Yeah.
I mean, again, yeah, it is a testament to those films that do hold up and stand
Yeah.
the test of time. But I think it's just interesting to see that, in my mind, I was sitting here thinking before I had understood when Gone with the Wind came out, I'm sitting here thinking, well, once Gone with the Wind came out and Wizard of Oz hit the
Everything
scene,
changes.
everything was
Yeah.
color, and it's like, no,
Nope.
you
We
know,
still
just
have a
like,
good,
well, I
like,
mean, even
yeah.
next year, the next year in the Oscars, we have Charlie Chaplin's The Dictator.
Oh yeah,
and it's a silent film.
Well, no, I think that's his first and
Or is it a
only
talkie?
sound film. And
Oh.
that one didn't fare well. It was his like last attempt at being relevant. Sad to say, because
That's
I mean,
the one where he's
Hitler
making fun of Hitler. yeah.
yes, and it was like his last attempt at still like holding to his name, Charlie Chaplin, because the silent era was gone.
You know, have you ever thought that maybe that movie didn't do so well because remember we did talk about
We
a time
did.
when Hollywood was kind of
Yeah.
catering
They
to
did- they
Hitler.
didn't
And
want
that's
to.
Maybe
possible.
that's one of the reasons.
I
it didn't
haven't
do that
seen
well.
it. I would like to see it. I know, yeah, because the next Best Picture winner is How Green Was My Pasture.
Valley.
Or How Green Was My Valley, yeah.
It's the British
No,
one.
no.
is Pasture.
No, there is, I think, a parody film called of something. Like,
Weird Al did it.
well, I don't know if it's like, I'm just saying, it's either in like something like The Simpsons or something, but I swear there is something called like How Green Was My Pasture.
Yeah, the
I'll have to
Babylon
look
Bee
it up.
probably has How
Probably.
Green Is My Pastor.
But yeah, How Green Was My Pastor.
Pastor, yeah,
That'd be
that's what I
Pastor. But How Green Was My Valley, sorry. And it was up against Citizen Kane and the Maltese Falcon. So I'm interested
Yeah.
to see how it does, because I mean those are heavy hitters right there.
Oh, of
and
course.
they didn't win Best Picture. This one did.
So it won that, and that'll be the interesting. So the next one we're going to be reviewing is actually How Green Is My Valley.
Not Pasture.
no, not Pasture.
I'm gonna Google
Not
that and see what
Pastor,
I
Where-
found.
yeah, I'm curious to see where that came out, like at or what that is about. But so definitely worth a movie. You know, it's a movie worth checking out.
Yeah.
Rebecca, 3 out of 4 stars.
And I don't, have you all ever seen What Lies Beneath?
Yes.
Bits. I'm not seeing it like
See,
all the way
this
through.
movie,
Yeah.
and I
Kind
almost
of-
feel like What Lies Beneath kind of took a little bit from this movie.
Probably.
Because I don't know if you remember, but you know Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer, like
Yes.
he had a previous fling and he killed her, and she was at the bottom of the lake.
But that's
and-
more her getting revenge on him.
Well,
than
yeah, she
anything.
comes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a presence that comes back to screw with
Yes.
him. But the idea of like him not liking or hating her and getting rid of her and putting her in the lake, and then
Yeah.
the new wife is the one who ends up digging and discovering these things. It just gave me kind of a sense of
Yeah.
of what lies beneath, or I think that borrowed a little bit from this
From this
storyline.
Well,
a
movie.
little
and then
bit.
it's possible that it may take some like or be a modern telling of like Rebecca in
Have
some
you
way.
have you found How?
No,
Green
I
Is My
couldn't. I may have
Pasture?
just made it up entirely in my mind.
I
Wow,
think it's-
kind of like it.
Honestly, I think
How
it's,
green is
I
my
think-
pasture?
I think it's a
I think
remake. We
Citizen
gotta,
Kane
Yeah,
won
we
that
got
year,
to.
and he's just full of crap.
What?
I said I think Citizen Kane just won. And
No,
you're
no.
full of
How
crap.
Green Was My Valley one? But
Oh, yeah.
I made up the. I don't know where the How Green
pasture?
Was My Pasture came from.
That is the next one, though, right? Number
Yes.
14.
Yeah, How Green Was My Valley is the next one. Because
I mean,
the only thing about I've never seen it. I have heard of that movie, but like the thing of note I saw about it was the fact that it was up against some pretty big films and
Yeah.
won. Which we've seen that in the past, but in the past it seems like the Best Picture winner shouldn't have been. It should have been the other ones.
What
I
are
don't
you
know what he's-
laughing at?
Yeah, I don't know what he's giggling
I'm trying
about.
to think of a segue to our headlines, and I thought of one, but it doesn't make any
I don't know if this is a segue to the headlines or not. I just noticed that both of them are watching now. But we wished him a happy birthday. We have to say happy anniversary to Neil.
Oh,
and
yeah,
Megan
of course.
absolutely.
That was
Singleton.
also yesterday.
Yeah.
Happy
Thank
anniversary!
God.
Happy anniversary!
Do it again.
Happy anniversary! Happy anniversary!
Yeah, I be honest with you. I'm just glad they got married on a day I can remember, which is
Yeah.
Keith's birthday.
My birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never forget.
Yeah.
It's like we're texting and it's like Keith's birthday. It's like happy birthday, Keith, and then it's like, oh, Neil and Megan got married today too.
Happy
and then it's like,
anniversary.
then Brandon goes, we were in Boston a year ago.
And I was in we were
Yeah.
in
That's where that
Deborah's
ended.
apartment.
And it was like
We were in the house of hell. Oh, God.
the apartment of hell.
Ugh.
Oh, and Suspicion was the other one. That's
I tell you what,
that
if
was
you
the
were
other
gonna,
nominee.
Alfred Hitchcock's.
if COVID would have
next
been around
film,
back
yeah.
then, you'd have got it in her apartment.
No
Oh yeah,
doubt.
we would have.
Oh,
we
yeah.
would
Oh,
have died.
I don't even want to think about what it would be like to try to have an Airbnb with that woman during COVID.
Oh God.
I don't know what she would try to make you do.
Oh.
She was already worried about people
Actually,
poisoning you.
Now
in
I'm
her
really
apartment.
now I'm
It's
really
like,
curious
yeah.
because she already thought people were trying to like pump poison through her air vents.
What is she doing now during
So
the pandemic?
during the
pumping
corona, she
COVID
probably
through there.
has every window, every vent, everything taped
Yeah.
up. Like
Her
she's
son probably looks like Bubble Boy. Like he's probably in a plastic.
They probably have
sleeve
found
and
them
can't
both-
move.
It keeps getting caught on his wheels.
So they've probably found them both dead in the apartment because she's sealed up every
They can't even breathe.
Like they don't even get oxygen in there because she sealed it up so tight that they just suffocated.
Yeah.
She's like, they're aliens, man. I'm telling you that
She
woman.
I felt bad for him. Honestly,
She was a mutant.
You could just tell he looked miserable. He hated. But her son, he looked miserable. He hated being there. He fought with her every night. I was like, man. It's like I feel bad for you because it's not like he. I mean, where's he gonna go?
I understood at that point how domestic violence happens. I mean, I get it.
You get to a point where you can't go anywhere and you just hit your breaking point.
And I tell you right now, that kid, he's going to wheel himself off.
If we're talking about COVID, and that kind of leads to one of our headlines, so maybe we can use that.
That's true. And
COVID's screwing up everything.
I mean, look, all right, for the third time now, Tenet is delayed yet again.
Mm-hmm.
Should we just wait till next year?
Well, here's the thing. They're
This
saying
is
not only is it delayed yet again, but they're saying it's possible it may not come out this year at all because now it looks
That's
like
my point.
they're
I
saying-
think
now they're
should it?
saying cinemas may not even open till September, if that. And I'm like, by that point, why?
AMC's hollow promises.
Well, they've made
Well,
deals.
did you see?
Yeah.
They're in other news. They're back in trouble again.
Yeah, because
with
they're
debt
not opening.
liquidators.
What?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
They've made some type of deal with a debt liquidator to help them out, and it's like I thought y'all were doing fine, but I guess they figured they would be if they got to open in July, but now it's not
so
happening.
the headline that I saw was like we found like a new investor and we're coming back.
But
Like
they
that
already
kinda-
were. They said that a month ago. They said we didn't have financial issues. Everything was fine.
Yeah, they said
And then it's
everybody
like-
stretched the truth, but
yeah.
now it's like, well,
and now they're back in trouble again because, well, hell, and you're going to have it a full year where your theaters are shut down. What's the story, AMC? I'm just tired of them. I'm ready for them to sell to somebody who will shut up. I mean, until all this is over.
Yeah.
But Tenet,
I
is
mean,
that going to be the one that saves it? Or should they just wait?
Apparently not. And here's
No.
at some point, it's like, I mean, knowing Christopher Nolan, he's going to fight the good fight as long as possible to have it released in theaters.
Yeah.
But there's so many other movies like Mulan, like they're talking about it being pushed back again. At some point, I just feel like Disney's going to be like, we give up. It's going to Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the sad thing because like I want theaters to reopen. I love theaters, and I know there's a lot of people that are going to fight against it because they're terrified of the spread of Corona. But at this point, all you're doing is hurting the industry and any industry that can't open, not just cinema and Hollywood, but any business that is affected by this is going under. And there's only so long they can hold on.
No, I agree. I feel like, I don't know. To me, it's like if they're not for sure, then just hold it off indefinitely.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
even give us a release date or a tentative. It's like we already know that the production companies themselves have spouted that they're going to wait until theaters are open to, what was it, 80% capacity?
Yeah.
Or 90%
I think
capacity
it
across
was like
the U.S.?
80, yeah.
So it's like, if we already know that, then just wait until it's open and then we'll have a release date
Here's
for
where
Tenet.
the biggest problem is because I was reading the article, and this is what irks me is because they're holding off because theaters can't open in California, New York, some of these bigger
Cares
states.
about them?
But that's my thing is that's what's aggravating me is because those are the big movie states
Yeah,
and
I
such,
know.
but they're also
They're the worst in terms of COVID.
Yeah, they're the
Yeah.
government. They're the states whose government are botching the COVID thing the worst. So it's like if we're waiting for Corona to clear up in California and New York, it could be a couple years before theaters reopen.
Yeah, I honestly am at the point too where I don't even think the Oscars are going to happen. I mean,
What are they going to award? Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've already had the one annotation about, oh, well, we're going to allow movies that were going to be released in theaters but couldn't and released on demand. And at this point, it's like you're going to have holdouts like Tenet,
what is there that's Oscar
Trolls, and Scoob.
Yeah.
That's it.
Scoob.
Those
Best
are the only-
animated picture of the year.
I mean-
Trolls 2.
Yeah, not Trolls 2.
It is Trolls 2.
It's Trolls World Tour.
But they do
World
both. They have Trolls 2 World Tour.
Oh, that's right.
It depends
Troll
on
2
the
is the bad one.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it just
I
depends
got
on
that
the
mixed up.
Yeah.
But the thing is so you have this situation where it's like Tenet was supposed to be the savior of the theater this year. If they even do indefinitely hold that off, because it seems like inevitably they're going to just get to a point where they can't. We already know when they're going to release it with a certain amount of theaters being open. So if they're holding off till September, even if it gets pushed all the way back to November, it could be the only movie that comes out this year that people are willing to see in theaters.
Yeah.
But at that point, what movies are left to come out that are going to just be like, I mean, yeah, we know the eligibility period is up through, I think, February, the original date of the Oscars.
Oh, I thought it was like the end of January. Is it February?
it is.
Really?
It's February because
Yeah.
the Oscars itself got pushed back.
Yeah,
Oh,
And
okay.
so it was going to be the first 2 months of the year.
The Oscars were supposed to premiere at the end of February, and they actually made that date the deadline for eligibility and pushed the Oscars back to like April.
And so, but that's still the question: is
Yeah.
what's coming out in that
So
time
far,
period?
I mean, I know like the Academy has adjusted eligibility to allow for movies that originally were supposed to get theatrical releases but couldn't and aired in streaming. Like those are still eligible. But at this point, it's almost like if they want to have an Oscars at all, they're going to have to make eligible all stream, like even Netflix originals that premiered solely on Netflix that weren't intended.
Bill and Ted might win an Oscar.
Yeah, that would be great
If it's one of the only movies that comes out, because that's one that I feel like they'll release it at the end of the year or
Yeah.
something when theaters are open, but it's
It'll
not
be
going to be
huge.
Yeah, it'll be huge, way bigger than it should have ever been.
It'll win because it's the best movie of the year. I
Well,
mean, you have to
it'll
give
be,
the best
it'll
movie
be
of the year
one
the
more
award.
movie that's better than Cavalcade.
Well,
Okay?
that's true.
I can
I mean, it'd
guarantee
still
you
be
it's better.
It'd still
Yeah.
be many of some of these earlier films.
But that's okay. So if they don't end up opening theaters, or even with the slate of movies that are scheduled, should we just wait till next year with Tenet? Like, would you all be willing to wait one more year?
For Tenet, maybe. I mean, I could see like, even if you say, well, they could release it on streaming, it's like Tenet's a movie I really want to see in IMAX, so I would wait to see that in IMAX.
I do too, but more than just being able to see it in theaters, like I would like to see it be successful.
Yes.
And I mean, Christopher Nolan has given us some of the best movies, ever. The Dark Knight trilogy is insane. I'm just saying, I would rather it wait and see it do good than to come out streaming and me get to see it sooner.
Yeah.
Like I just don't.
I agree. I'm just thinking. I love the comment that you made. It's like best movies ever.
I'm
Like,
telling you.
bar none.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm serious.
he has made. I mean,
What bad movie has he made?
That's
Actually, no,
true.
there's
I
not.
can't think
Everyone.
of
I
a-
mean, he's
he's made movies better than
like
some of his
8 or 8,
others, but
here's
I've
what's
loved
funny.
all his movies.
What if
Yeah,
this
all of his
one
movies are worth seeing.
absolutely sucks?
The trailer is better than 90% of the movies I saw last year.
I mean, this
So-
movie could absolutely suck, and it'd be the first one I thought that about
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan. But like Sean said, the trailer is already more original than
Yeah.
any movie I've seen like
No,
in the past year.
I'm
so.
still psyched about it. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I'm not losing my. I want to see this film.
Yeah.
I'm just worried that we're going to continue to keep pushing back theater openings. And I'm like, look, consider 2020 a loss. And
I agree.
At the end of the day, I mean,
for
it's-
more than just movies.
for more than just
This year
movies.
is just
Exactly.
shit.
It's like we literally just the whole
This is a terrible year.
the whole world just is on
God.
hold. It's like, yeah, we're done with this year. Be done with it. I don't know if there is a glimmer of hope. And I would just prefer if it got pushed back to next summer and became another release that was just another blockbuster summer. Yeah. And maybe it's part of other wide releases, because that's the other thing. What's coming out next year? All of production's still halted.
Yeah. I mean, you don't
still
have-
don't have a lot
Jacob
of movies that
Burris
are.
said we should just make Gremlins 7 by the end of the year and win Best Picture.
Yeah.
I think we could do that.
Like,
Make like
what about
I think we
3,
could.
4,
about
5,
3,
and
4,
6.
5? Yeah,
We're gonna make
exactly.
them all in 1 year.
Maybe look,
the
we could,
Gremlins saga?
all
Turn
in
it
1
into a
year.
saga.
we could literally make all those movies and have one come out every week.
Yeah.
Like leading up to the end of the year.
That would be great.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty much what all the movies coming out next year are going to be the ones that were supposed to release
Yeah.
this year. So I mean, yeah,
But
the
and
Academy
they-
doesn't
they
have much
still
to
may
offer.
not.
Because
yeah.
even the Halloween movie's probably not going to release on Halloween.
Well,
Like, what are we
it's already been delayed to next year.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
postponed till next year.
not next Halloween though, right?
Next
Yeah.
October.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know
They
this.
they want it to release around Halloween, so it's delayed
Well,
till
I mean, I
next
knew
October.
that was the plan, but
Yeah.
dang.
They
They-
came out with a teaser that has them like leaving the place and
Yeah.
the fire trucks are coming.
Yeah.
And they're like, leave them burn, let them burn. And it's like, that's the only teaser we've gotten. But the rest of the movie's already been delayed to 2021.
Be burning for a whole
October.
year.
for a
A
whole,
whole year.
Yeah.
I think he'd be dead by then.
maybe.
Surely.
Candyman was delayed.
Yep.
Because
Nah.
I want to see that one too.
I want to see it, but it ain't.
Not as much as
I ain't
Halloween.
hopeful for that one. Quiet Place Part 2.
Yes.
Yes.
I definitely want to see that.
And that one's still on hold. We don't know. I mean, it's
Yeah.
supposed to come
Well, I
out
mean,
this year. but-
everything's on hold at this point.
And that's the thing. I'm like, is there anything worth salvaging, or are the movies? It's either one thing. It's like the movies that are going to come out, and who knows? Tenet, A Quiet Place 2 are movies that I I wouldn't be mad if they won Oscars, but those are not typically your movies.
Well,
that
it depends
you're
on
gonna
how
see.
good they are. Yeah.
And so my question is if you don't have a wide array in the field, it's going to be one or the other. It's going to be everything gets delayed and we don't have an Oscars, or you're going to have an Oscars where the categories are
it's
very
going to be
limited.
a really curious year. Yeah, and I mean, I'm interested in seeing it. And I mean, to be fair, if Tenet's the best movie to release this year because it's one of the only ones, and they have an Oscars, it's like, well, I can't be mad if it wins because it really is the best of the year. I mean, it may not hold up to other Best Picture winners.
It'd just be crazy if it literally is the only movie that comes out this year.
Wins every category.
It just
every category.
Sweeps it.
Oscar sweeps the only one nominated, the only one that wins. All right, well, you were talking
You know
about
what would happen, though? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah,
but,
no,
you know,
go
they'd
ahead.
be presenting it, and then it would go to Moonlight.
It's like, and the winner is Tenet. Oh, we got to mix
it's
it up.
Moonlight
we mixed
again.
it up. We mix it up.
Oh.
It's Gremlins 7.
7
you know,
movie that didn't even release.
We're talking about putting things on streaming services and putting things on hold.
You
know
knew
what-
where I
you
was
know,
going.
So you know what Disney is maybe putting on hold? Who knows at this point? Is their censoring of films because
I think it's a double standard.
They've been so inconsistent. Hamilton recently was for July 4th placed on Disney Plus.
Yep.
It was censored very marginally. And the curious thing is, you had all the blowback from where they censored Daryl Hannah's butt in Splash. Yeah.
The worst censor job
and
ever.
it was terrible, and it was
Terrible.
stupid. It made no sense.
They covered it up with her hair, didn't they?
Yeah,
like
they did.
fake hair.
They digitally added.
It looks terrible.
It
I
doesn't
remember
even
seeing it.
Yeah, it doesn't even match her hair. It's
No.
this digital hair going straight down that makes no sense.
I mean, it looks like a bad DVD.
Well, the
rip,
problem
like
is
pixelation.
the whole movie. The whole movie, you see her hair goes down to like the middle of her back, and now all of a sudden
It's
there's
down
this
to her
digital hair
thighs.
that's down to her
Yeah.
butt. Yeah, but they put Hamilton on there. And they did say it was going to be censored, which everybody's like, well, I guess that makes sense because the Splash is stupid. Then we come to find out, no.
It's not censored.
What Disney has stated was that
I've been on Sean the
starting,
whole time.
starting with Hamilton, they said, well, what we're actually going to do is if it meets current PG-13 standards, we're going to leave it alone. So Hamilton has 3 uses of the F word. They bleep out 2, but everything else in the play is left as is, with 1 still intact. Recently, X-Men Days of Future Past. Yeah, Future. I had to think about the name of that. They've gotten so convoluted, even though that is a name of comic.
That's how I think about those.
But Days of Future Past was placed on there, and they didn't censor Hugh Jackman's butt, which is shown in that movie, nor the F word he uses, because it's PG-13.
Yep.
But my problem with
Which
this
I
is,
was already shocked that
Yeah.
10 Things I Hate About You's on there,
Yeah.
and it has language in it.
well,
that
and
I'm
that's
like,
and that
how
one's
are they allowing
actually
this?
not censored either. And
No.
my thing with that is, okay,
Which I'm fine with.
I am fine with that, but my problem is they're saying as long as it meets current PG-13 standards, we're going to leave it alone. It's like, but you edited Splash. So is this a new stance you're taking, and are you going to go
Yes.
back and fix the censorship? Or is this just, well, whatever random ones we feel like are going to, we don't want to edit the ones that are going to be most popular, but ones that we feel like should be family-oriented, we will. And it's like, no, you can't pick and choose.
I think the best quote... go ahead.
Now,
You
I
go
was
ahead.
going to say, when you're talking about family-oriented, Splash is a movie that, for the most part, could be considered a family picture. But I mean,
still,
it's like less than 2 seconds
Yes.
that you see her butt as she jumps in the water.
Exactly.
Like, it is hardly nothing.
And Hugh Jackman walks around naked for a good 5-minute scene, and they don't show everything.
Does he
Obviously,
really?
Yeah, I mean the whole scene
What
is him
movie?
in Days of Future Past.
All right, I got to write that down.
Yeah, you
gotta
can
get
see
on
his
it.
I'm
butt.
looking at his Instagram picture on this link.
That's
and
the
I'm
scene
just
there. Like
Jesus.
it starts with him sitting
That's
in
a
the bed
man
like
right
that.
there.
That's
Yeah,
a man.
That is a man.
If you show that picture on the camera,
Yeah,
show it.
Can I show that?
Hey, we could show
Are
it
you-
on
is it-
here.
do
Yeah,
we're
it's
not
just
gonna
his
censor
chest.
it?
It's
I don't
just
think
his
it's going to
chest.
get censored.
Look at that.
I don't.
Ugh.
You can't see it. You can't
Oh
see
man.
it. You got it. Oh, it
no,
just went
no.
away.
What happened?
It just went away.
Why did you do that?
Oh no, where's Hugh? There he is.
I guess we're censoring ourselves.
We got to see Hugh.
I'm gonna cut away.
Do you see him now?
Oh man, look at those
Look at
bullet hole
But
ridden
see, yeah,
chests.
the scene starts with him sitting on the bed like that, and then he gets out of the bed, and you see his butt, and he walks around the room, and it's probably a 2 or 3 minute scene, not actually 5, but
I'm gonna
still,
look that
it's
up.
a long enough scene
Now
that
let's
it's
show
like
that on there.
I find it odd that that's left alone. Not that not that I care, but it's
Yeah.
weird that that's left alone. But Harold Dana,
Harold
Wow.
Dana.
Harold Dana gets edited.
Yeah.
He does look like a man.
Yeah, but,
Harold Dana.
you know,
Daryl
she
Hannah.
was a
Yeah.
mermaid.
Well,
And-
and that's the thing. She's not even human. She's a mermaid.
Yep.
So why are they covering up
Can't-
her butt? I don't understand.
Because
it.
apparently female butt is bad, but male butt is
okay,
good.
that actually
I don't
that was
that.
going to be my question.
I would
of
much
the
rather
whole-
look at her butt. Well, actually, I don't know.
That's
Hugh
sexist.
Jackman is. Look at
I
him.
was say if that was Hugh Jackman, I'm fine with that.
It's like, if
There
it
ain't
had been
nothing wrong
any
with
other guy's
That's
butt,
how they should have
but
edited Splash and made Hugh Jackman running naked into the water.
no, they should have they should have honestly just placed Hugh Jackman's butt on Daryl Hannah's.
then
they
it would have
should-
been okay.
Then it would have been okay.
that would have been great.
That's what they needed to go back and edit Hugh Jackman's butt on Daryl Hannah.
The thing I found the greatest out of all of this is that Hugh Jackman.
I was just thinking they
That
need to go
visual
back
image.
and like edit Hugh Jackman's butt on Superman's mustache.
That would be great, and it would still look
It
better.
would look more interesting.
it
than
would
that.
still look 10
The
times
thing that
better.
I was going to say that I find most entertaining out of all of this, though, are that Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds have actually made fun of Disney themselves with the whole incident.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hugh
that's-
Jackman
yeah.
has made fun of it. He's like, I'm on there and I'm completely uncensored. And then Ryan Reynolds had to chime in with, well, now I think it's time to add Deadpool uncensored to
Yeah.
Disney Plus. The kids are ready.
Kids are
The
ready.
kids
And I'm
are
just
ready.
like, that's great.
Well, that's the biggest question of all. Is it does kind of draw this fine line of you want to talk about it being for family content, which I understand.
Yeah.
Nobody's arguing that against Disney, but I do feel like it's kind of a double standard where either you've gotten enough flack, or there was some. I think it really was Hamilton, because I think a lot of people would have been pissed
Knowing
that
that
they edited Hamilton.
Heavily edited, which
Yeah.
even the
I'm-
at
I'm
that
still-
point
it's
like
not even that heavy if it's just three
yeah,
F-bombs.
It's 2 F words they bleeped out, and it's like, if that's all it was, you might as well have just left all 3 of them in there. I mean,
Yes.
at that point, it's just stupid. You know what I'm saying? It's like you leave 1 in and edit out 2. Just leave all 3 of them in.
Yeah.
But I just find it interesting that it's like they now are picking it because of a such. It just goes to show you how much of a cultural shift somebody is going to be willing to make if you raise enough, which I don't even know if people who were arguing for an uncut
Hey.
version of Hamilton, they were just trying to make it seem like, well, Hamilton is just such a great property.
It's so historically
and it's-
relevant, we need to leave it alone.
Yeah, and I'm just like, again, you pick and choose your battles, but now it just goes to show you that it had nothing to do with morals in the first place. It had everything to do with what was socially relevant, and so because you found it capable of saying, well, we needed to leave this uncut, we're now going to put these other films on there, and never mind the other films that we've already had on there, and we had reasons for blocking that content for family orientation. But now all of a sudden we're gonna current
Well,
PG-13 standards.
it goes back to what you learned last week, Brandon. Threats and instilling fear is the best way to get what you want.
I don't understand
South
why. I don't even understand why Hamilton's on Disney at all. I mean, he was one of the founding fathers. He probably owned slaves.
I think that's
that-
trust me,
that's-
that's been one of the
He
contentious.
was one of the poor founding fathers that was. The reason Hamilton has had such a big push recently is because Hamilton was a founding father who was for like bigger, more centralized government. But there was also they paint the founding fathers in a light of like today's mindset and today's politics. But there wasn't Republicans and Democrats back then. I mean, there was Federalists and
Whigs,
anti-Federalists
right.
and the Whigs. And you did have some that were for centralized government. You had those who were for state rights, and that was like the debate that formed the government we have today, was to have both, whereas states had certain rights and then the central government was over certain things. And that was like the beauty of the founding fathers, is how they compromised to create something that would work in that way. But everybody's using Hamilton as, well, he's a hero because he knew the true way, as he wanted centralized government. But even his idea of centralized government isn't the same as what people today are thinking.
Well, and regardless of it, again, it just shows me that Disney doesn't truly have a backbone.
Yeah.
It just shows me that ultimately when a certain type of property comes in on display, and you either for your own personal reasons decide to show it in a certain fashion or decide to block it in a certain fashion, it's because of your own special circumstances. It's because of whatever, moral reason Disney has to block certain things like Splash or to leave things uncensored like X-Men and Hamilton. And it's fine for them to make this ruling. I just think it's a little bit crooked that the streaming service is only 7-8 months old, and yet you're already backpedaling on something that you said you were going to be firm on. And it's not like, oh, I'm afraid that family content's going to be ruined. It's like, no, I'm opposed to censorship. I would have been fine with Disney putting on there films that are uncensored. My problem is that they took the stance early on that they were going to only put films on there that represented family values.
But then they
and
started
now all of a
adding
sudden
other
they're adding
movies.
these films that we ultimately like with Deadpool, and we talked about this way back when, how Deadpool was going to be released, but it's going to be under a different banner than Disney. So people don't relate Mickey Mouse to Deadpool, which is fine. But if you have Disney Plus, which is a streaming service for all Disney content, you now have a huge amount of property that is owned by Disney that is going to have its own streaming service, or are you going to put it in Disney Plus?
And that's my thing is like, because they're talking about like, well, anything that doesn't meet the family standards we'll put on Hulu, and it's like, well, that's fine, but then do that. Don't edit something to put it on Disney Plus. If you feel like you have to edit it, then put it on Hulu.
Right.
Exactly.
And I mean, it is kind of silly because at one point I'm just like, why not just put everything on Disney Plus? Do like Netflix has, where you can create a kids section that only has family-oriented content.
Agreed.
And then the people who want to watch Deadpool, which is owned by Disney, or want to watch other material that
just have age restrictions.
I mean, Pulp Fiction was produced by Disney through the Miramax banner. So it's like, why not have that? Now, of course, you don't want it on Disney Plus because it's not family-oriented, but if you just had it as a platform that was everything with a way to have family content like Netflix and Hulu does, you could. And it's just kind of weird how Disney kind of wants its cake and eat it too, but they're not doing a good job of it.
Nope.
Not at this point. Not at this point. I'm a little bit concerned about, just... I'm sorry, I left it too long on you getting.
My nose itch.
You were just getting it.
I did.
He left it on me for like 5 full minutes.
I did.
He's drunk at the wheel today. I don't know.
I ain't directed today. I'm ready to join the discussion. No, it's funny because I think a lot of what we're talking about with Disney Plus kind of leads nicely into our relationship segment this week, which we can just slide right on in to that.
Let me tell you about the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees and the moon up above and a thing called love.
Aww. It's
Relationships.
funny. You mentioned leaving it on me too long, and because we have a 10-second delay, I looked down and saw myself just scratching my nose, and I was like, man, that looks bad. He left it on there the whole time I'm doing it.
I was trying to transition. I couldn't get my finger on the button.
Digging for gold.
And I'm like, man,
Well, I
he's
didn't
just still going.
Luckily, there was no fingers up nostrils. I was doing this, pinching my nose.
Yeah.
But it just itched, and I was doing like that, and I was like,
there's
man, that was on
there's
there.
a rule of thumb in TV, and that is, if you're in the studio, act like you're live. That's the only thing I can say.
That's how. Well, I don't care. I'm gonna
That's it.
scratch my nose. It
All the
itches.
time. Well, you know what?
know?
You're also going to scratch the itch on this discussion.
What the heck?
He's trying to make transition. I don't know. Brandon's been in rare form today. He's been all over the place.
It's probably
just
one of the worst transitions. I can't make segues worth a darn tonight.
I'm almost
We don't
curious,
need 'em.
you
Right now, you're like chimpanzee riding on a
Segway?
Segway. You are like all over the place.
Well, I can't help
So
it.
what is the topic of this week's story?
Well, we were over
relationships.
enjoying your nice birthday meal that
Yeah.
my lovely neighbors had
The
provided for
Garens,
us.
they're
Brian
wonderful
and
people.
Garens, yes.
Kristen.
They provided us a nice family meal
Yes.
this evening. And while we were attending that family meal, we had some civil discourse. Well, and that's what
Not
we
really,
wanted to talk about.
but I mean that's.
Yeah, it's sorta.
Believe in things you don't understand. Civil discourse ain't the way. You gotta change the lyrics.
See,
It
I'm
fits.
not the only one,
It
Sean.
fits. Like
Fits what?
superstition ain't the way. Civil discourse
Oh,
ain't the way.
I was gonna say,
When
that
you
doesn't-
believe
that
in
doesn't fit
things, it does make sense because
life.
people believe in things they don't understand and then they fight about it rather than learn about it.
Yeah, but I didn't know what song you were trying to put that to.
I didn't either.
There's
It was
Superstition ain't the way.
ain't that man. He just hit all the notes on that one. Sean is like, he is baffled right now. He's like,
I'm
what show am I on?
completely
Yeah,
lost.
you know.
What in the hell is
No.
this?
Megan said this is her favorite segment, and she hopes it doesn't disappoint. So, so who knows what we're doing right now?
Well,
She's probably watching us like,
It's going to
well,
disappoint somebody.
All right, so let's just dive right into it because obviously we're not getting off
civil
to a good
discourse.
start.
Yeah.
Good start. All right.
Can you discuss things with friends and family? Like who can you have those conversations
Well,
with?
I
Really?
think even more broadly than just friends and family, because I think, especially right now, the contentious time that we're in, I think especially with social media being amplified with everybody in quarantine, it's like you kind of have to have that discussion of what is civil discourse and can we still have it in today's age with everybody being, their own kind of bullies on the internet with the keyboard.
Yep.
And I think it is a proper topic to bring up, especially after 3 months of being in quarantine. We've seen the Black Lives Matter movement protests for the last month. Here,
maskers versus anti-maskers.
yes,
and-
I mean it's like every day it seems to truly be
I like that.
It is.
maskers and
Yeah.
anti-maskers.
Well, that's what they're
Yeah.
calling them,
I
anti-maskers.
know, it's just
so.
silly that they got
And it's. I like the example when we were talking over there in the fact that we were over there with Brian and Kristen, and we don't all share the same political viewpoints, but we are friends. We get together every week. We talk about these topics, and we never once get mad at each other, never fight or argue. We state what we believe or why we believe it, and we just talk about it, and it's nice, and that's how things should be. With conflicting conflicts, man, we're all conflicting. Yeah, I don't know.
Is that what
well,
you said?
Here,
think
real
so.
quick, I just have to point out, you said superstition ain't the way, like civil discourse ain't the way. Wouldn't it be
the way?
Civil discourse would be the way.
It is the way.
Why? No, it shouldn't be the way.
Yes, it should be.
We
Because
shouldn't
you
be
want,
fighting each other. We should
that
be
is civil discourse.
That's exactly what that means.
Yeah, civil discourse is a good
civil
thing.
talking is basically
Oh,
it's
that's
like
fine.
a civil
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
of disagreeing.
Yeah.
Yeah, now he's
Yeah,
getting it.
yeah.
Well,
It's
that way
clicking.
is sorry.
So civil discourse.
Man,
is
I don't
the
know where
way.
I was going, but that is the way. But yeah, being civil to one another.
Just had
Listen,
to clarify.
that
I
is the
want
way.
I want anarchy. We don't want no civil discourse.
All right, let's get back on topic.
But yeah, it is good to be able to talk about things with friends and family and not have that, because there's people who can't. I know family members that if you have the opposing political viewpoint of them, then they write you off as not their, like, well, you're not my family because you're an idiot because you don't believe what I believe.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just wrong.
Yeah, that was.
I mean, that's it.
It's wrong.
I agree.
It's
No,
like
I,
Jeff Goldblum. Well, there it is.
It is.
There it
yeah.
is.
It's wrong.
no, I would agree, and I think the reason this kind of came up was because we had a moment of reprieve over there discussing these differences, and I think it's one of those situations where we can sit down and we know week to week we can have these discussions. I mean, ultimately we do here every single week on the podcast. I think we talk about more often than not, we agree on movie reviews, but even when we have those dissenting arguments, Arrival sucks, that you still have moments where it's like you can disagree, have your opinion, and you can talk it out and still completely be fine after the show's over, after you've walked away from the conversation. And I think tonight as we were sitting around the table outside enjoying the nice weather, it was like we had so many things to be thankful for, and one of those things was that we could have these conversations without being at each other's throats. And I think we had even talked about how so many of the comments that we see often on social media these days is so vitriolic and so hate-filled that often it's people who we know the best of their intentions, we know their heart, we know that if they were sitting right across the table from me, they would not be arguing in such a way, in such a hateful manner.
People tend to be worse on social media than they are in person. Like you could see someone who makes these really hate-filled statements on Facebook about people who don't believe the same way they do. But then when they're with their friends and family, they're like, well, I understand because you're my family. I know where your heart really is, even if we disagree. And it's like, yeah, but you trust them because they're your friend or family, but you don't trust the stranger on the street because you don't know them. You just assume because they view things the opposite of you, they're evil. But they could be just like your family that views things the opposite of you.
Yeah. Right. And I mean, I shared with you, I won't name names, but I had an instance with social media where even and I would call her a child because I feel like her attitude is very childish, but also that she's like 19 years old. But one of my former youth group members, when I was a student minister, she lashed out at me about masks on Facebook. And it was very, again, I mentioned over there that had she been sitting across from me, she would have never, said what she said. But because she has a Facebook family of, peers that are of the same opinion or even
It's a
more
bully
so
pulpit.
more so forcing their opinion to the point where she is falling in line because she knows well that if she went against the grain, then she would be ridiculed herself. So I really felt like some of the things that she said were definitely pressured to say it online, where if we were sitting across from each other in a group discussion or whatever with closer friends or whatever, she wouldn't have been so volatile.
Yeah, well, and
she would still have her opinions, and her opinions are valid.
Yeah, I was just
but
saying
she would have
it's
not been
easier to puff up your chest through an online medium than it is to look someone in the eye, and because then you actually have to deal with the person one-on-one.
Well, and I think especially in with regards to even my neighbor and Kristen, who I've seen post certain things on social media, who I know from just going over there and conversing each week and knowing her opinions, and it's like And I've seen things where it's like, I think sometimes too, it's easy for people to see certain things being posted, and then you, as the person who sees that person, who may think, well, I didn't know they thought that way.
Yeah.
Well, I disagree with that. And you don't have to get enraged about it.
Yeah.
You don't have to, and I think it can work both ways. I think you can have people who are inciting certain kinds of discourse and being vitriolic, and then you can also have people who are out there looking to be offended. I mean, that's a lot of our culture today.
Yes.
Are people who are looking for fights. They're looking for people they disagree with just to go out and put their head on a stake,
Yeah.
and do so in such a way that they can not have a civil discussion about
I think
it.
in many ways people are being pressured and, like you said, bullied into thinking that that's how it has to be.
Yes.
You're told that if you're not fighting for this cause or if you're not doing this, then you are against it. And that may not be the case. It may just be, I'm on my way to work. I don't have time to stop
Yeah.
and picket with the rest of you.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
it's like I have
Yeah.
a job I have to go to feed my family or whatever.
Doesn't mean I
Doesn't mean I disagree with you.
Well,
it
I
just
was-
means I'm not there right now at this
I was
moment.
also going to say, like, to the opposite effect, I think there's also people who don't care one way or the other about any political issue. They're just using this as an opportunity to be an a-hole and
Yes.
do what they, because there's
Oh,
some
yes.
people that are taking advantage of the situation to say,
Taking
well, now I
advantage
can
of other
do
people's misery.
Yeah, now I can do whatever I want and get away with it because
Yeah.
it'll be hidden amongst all this other stuff going on, and that's equally wrong.
Well,
yeah.
and so, I mean, taking the current environment and the current situation with all that we faced already this year, and everybody, I think, is going to look back. It's going to be interesting to see, how they always do those. They did it at the end of last year with, like, the last 10 years and everything that happened in the decade. And it's already weird to see that, like, I feel like 2020 is going to be the pits. I mean, if it gets much
Yeah.
worse than that, we're in hell.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm interested to see just how on edge people are because of the current situation. And it's like you do have, I think, boiling points for certain people, but I also feel like I've seen just a sense of calm whenever I do get off social media, when I don't look at other people's opinions, and I notice that it's like a lot of times I can see people who are just straight faced can write the worst stuff on Facebook, and then I could run into them and they're like, hey, hate going? And it's like you would think nothing is wrong, but
Yeah.
they don't understand to the extent, or they've not been, I guess, on the receiving end of that hate-filled speech, that they themselves don't realize the damage that I think they cause when they spread that. And so for me, I'm just like, for you all, my question is with everything that has gone on this year, it's like, do you all feel that so much of it is the anxiety, so much of it is just the tension that everybody has felt through COVID, through the protests?
I don't really think. I think like the COVID, some people have gone to the extreme with conspiracy theories and all kinds of stuff about COVID. Whatever, if you want to believe that, whatever, that's fine. I don't believe that there's any kind of a social experiment, but I definitely believe this has been a social test.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
is. I mean,
Agreed.
it has tested our patience. It's tested our sincerity. It's tested, I mean, really everything about the human psyche, really.
Yeah.
Because there's people who are losing their grip on everything right now, and they're in the streets, they're online, they're in our government.
Yeah.
They've lost grip on reality, and I think it is because of just the social damage that COVID has done. Because we're social creatures, and we're being
True.
locked away in our houses, and we're hiding our faces, and we're being ridiculed for what we do or don't do. And I think it's just
Yeah, to piggyback off that a little bit, because I mean, my viewpoints aligned with that is, I think a lot of what we're seeing, especially with the discrepancy of people who are very vitriolic on social media but friendly in person, is because they buy into like what they're shown in the media and what peer pressure tells them to do, and they now everybody views each other as like these little like boxes, these groups that everybody has to fit in. Like,
Right.
like you're a part of this group, so your mindset is exactly this way, and that's not how
Yes.
real life works. People have varying degrees of varying views, but because peer pressure and media and different things tell you, well, if that person thinks that way, then they also think this way, and this way, and that makes them evil. And they buy into that, and on social media, like, cry out against it. But then when they meet you in person and know, like, well, you're not like that at all. You're one of the good ones. It's like,
Yeah,
well,
they're
no,
almost shocked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They're almost
shocked.
shocked. Like, oh, well, you don't fit into that
It's
box.
like, it's like
Yeah.
no,
you're
I
not
never
you're
did.
not as demonic as this group made you
Yeah.
out to be, and that's how most people are.
Yeah.
Most people don't fit into just
Every
one
single
Yeah,
box.
they don't fit into just one construct. People are varied. I mean, they have layers and different viewpoints. And when people realize that, that's when they're able to have the civil discourse as
well,
opposed
and I think
to
that's what
fighting.
civil
Yeah.
discourse brings about. I think that when you're not, just in your own echo chamber, when you're actually, you're made to go out, like you said, social creatures. We're
Yeah.
made to go out and interact with other people that we know we can be there for a common good. That doesn't mean that I'm gonna immediately just take this chance of going down the street and getting to know every single neighbor on my road, and I'm going to be the best friends with them as possible. But even our neighborhood group that I keep up with here, it could be, hey, can everybody pitch in? I got to, mow this grass, and I need some money for it. And you see people who pitch in.
Is that how you get your grass grown?
Yeah,
mowed?
I wish. I think if I put another, say, hey, it's a common yard. Y'all can use it whenever you
It
want.
takes a village to cut my grass.
Yeah. For as long as I let it grow, it does.
Yeah.
But no, I really do think it's one of those situations where, no, I don't plan to know the people on my street as well as I know my family. But the more I'm willing to get out there and get to know the people in my community, I think so much of today's world is fractured in social media world. And it's like there's a beautiful thing about how close and how it bridges the gap of those distances. That's what a great thing social media can do. But it also brings, I think, about this fracture in just, your next door neighbor. And I think we have so many instances where it's like, well, no. I've got a group on Facebook that I'm a part of, and we all say the same thing that we agree with. And and this is really who my family is and who we are. And it's like, but you're ignoring your next door neighbor, and you're telling me that you wouldn't rush into the house and save them if their house was on fire. It's like, at what point do we take that responsibility of knowing that our common, our commonality is in the people that we live next to,
I think that
not just live across the world with,
I think that addresses another issue entirely, is that you aren't taught the sense of community that people had in the past. I mean, community was a huge aspect, and when you do have like that closeness with your community and know each other, you are able to work together to build a better tomorrow, whereas opposed now, everybody is more like just themselves.
Isolated.
Very isolated.
Figuratively and literally.
It's also the community that you're looking to be a part of now is a community of like-minded people.
Yes.
And it used to be a community was a mixed bag of people. That's what made it a community.
Yeah.
But now we're so hell-bent on finding people of the same mindset and the same morals and same values that we miss out on a lot of relationships that we could have because we're too busy in our own box.
And when all you have is a sounding board of your own opinions, that's when society stagnates and dies.
Well, and I think
can't
it
grow.
also sets up that vitriolic nature. It sets up my premise and my theory about how the world works and how it turns is correct because I've got all these people who are backing up my
Well, you
thoughts.
never learn that way because all you're ever told is what you already believe, and you just hear it parroted back to you. So then you never have anything challenging your ideas, so therefore you can't learn and grow because you're just confirmed constantly in your own beliefs.
Absolutely. I mean,
I swear.
Damn it.
We did it again.
We did it again.
Yeah.
Megan, you said don't disappoint.
I hope we did.
I hope we did
didn't.
not.
I don't.
Let us know.
We're all in agreement. There's no civil discourse
That's
here.
right.
We're tooting our own horn,
As none of us wear masks.
As none of us believe differently, really, from
Right.
everybody
And
else.
we're not 6 feet apart.
Hey, yes, we are. Shh. I could be fined for that. Just saying.
his company that has never made a
I
profit
didn't
is
see
going to be
anything
like
posted on the door. So.
he's going to be immediately in
Well,
the red.
I don't know. You all have health conditions that I can't ask about.
That's true.
And we're not going to divulge those on here. That's not the civil
I mean, I
discourse we're
technically
talking
could
about.
probably get away with that. I mean, I have a heart condition.
There you go.
I had hypertension, so that
I've got stress and anxiety. Okay.
Megan said we certainly did not.
We didn't disappoint.
So.
Well,
Good.
you know what? It's funny because
we
I'm
can be done
glad
now.
that Megan joined in on our chat, and there's other ways that all of our viewers and listeners can join in, and it's very simple. You can do so on our live chats here every week at 9 p.m. On Facebook Live and YouTube, or you can email us. That's right, guys. RMPodcast@redmoonproductions.com.
Ooh.
Email us your thoughts, your opinions. Are you feeling alone and isolated out there? We can be your friend.
Now, if anybody wants to check out, that's true.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to
Like,
check out like past reviews or some of our projects that we did in the past because we currently don't have anything on the slate, how would they do that?
What?
how would they check out,
Wow.
our reviews,
Wow.
past projects?
The website, Brandon.
Yeah.
Oh, the one we
Jesus.
finally have?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's finally live.
Look, he don't
after
even
2
remember
years.
it.
He's
He
like,
finally
man.
made the thing and forgot
Yeah,
all about
I
it.
haven't
Well,
updated that
actually,
in
I
3
got
months.
a more important message
Uh-oh.
because it's kind of funny about our website.
Oh, God.
See, there's this episode that's going to air next week.
That's true.
Yeah.
because we are actually not going to be on live.
We're going to be out next week.
Summer break.
We are.
We're going to be self-quarantining.
So we're going to be isolating
Yeah.
and trying to.
Isolating
I don't
out
know.
of
I'm
town.
not even going to come up with a joke. I can't
Yeah.
come up with it right now.
We're just not going to be here, so you're getting a rerun.
There's not going to be,
Yeah.
there's not
You're
going to be a
gonna
new
get
episode.
But it's funny because on that previously recorded episode, we mentioned about there being a website, #one day. Yeah. And it's like, it's live now.
Yeah.
We can actually say Red Moon Productions.
So if you watch next week and see the rerun and we mentioned not having a website, that's false. We do have one. What's it
Yeah.
called, Brandon?
RedMoonProductions.com.
There we
Check
go.
it out.
Finally got it out of him.
That's
Well.
not all you're getting out of me. Hey-oh.
I think it's time to end the show.
It is. All right, guys.
need to
We are
squash
finally going
this.
to end it. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
and
Keith Cheatham.
let's get the hell out of here.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.